So what do we have here with the draft? MbL Aztecs first, Mongols, Vikings, Franks, Mayans, Goths. I really like this draft. Vikings is a little bit of a questionable decision, but like it's still having an acceptable win rate, even though it's a little bit disappointing. I would say Vikings can be situational. Could be good, but I'm not thinking that's going to be the strongest pick for MbL. I think the Goths might be just a misleading there. Although remember, I feel like when we are talking about MbL and the Goths, this is probably for laming purposes, like hardcore laming for MbL. So there's a chance that if MbL falls behind, he's gonna pick Goths for some hardcore laming. Because all the laming settings just benefit MbL super massively in this one, I believe. If you think about the fact that he can just lame whatever he wants, that's like perfect for him. So Mayans, Franks, amazing. Mongols, not particularly amazing in terms of economy. But if you think about the fact that they can be super effective if they manage to get a lame in, they are amazing with their manga dies. Mongols, they don't really have an amazing win rate, I believe, although it's 57%, so it's actually better than I thought. In this case, I really like Mongols as well. Overall, the biggest weakness of Mongols is like mid-castle age. Next up is Dogao's picks Chinese, Khmer, Malians, Indians. Once again, Dogao used Indians against Max, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday. And I don't remember the outcome of that game, but I think he won. Indian camels can snowball a game rather fast, but I don't like it. The problem with Indian camels is that they just pretty much die to a pikeman play. They are somewhat resistant to arrow fire, but they are not even amazing against a full archer play. That's the other problem. Indians can be amazing at dealing with Mongols. That's probably the only purpose why I could see them being used, but I don't really like it overall. Incas for Dogao is interesting, since Aztecs and Mayans are in the hands of MbL. This is the only Mazo civs that he has left. And the final pick for Slavs. So I am tempted to say that I like MbL's draft a lot more. Aztecs, Franks, Mayans, all three of these are S-tier civilizations for KOTD3. Mongols, Vikings, probably A-tier, and then there is Goths that MbL really likes. On the other hand, Dogao has Chinese and Khmer that are probably S-tier. And then you probably have Slavs and Malians as A-tier. And like Indians, Incas as B+ or something like that, if you really want to make a tier list. So I'm tempted to say that I like MbL's draft here a lot better. Alright, Lithuanians are banned by MbL. I like that. I think against Max, Dogao's first pick was Lithuanians, and MbL just doesn't want to fight against those somewhat overpowered cavalry units. So that's one of the reasons why MbL is just banning out Lithuanians over here. Players are getting ready. I'm going to preemptively restart my game so it doesn't freak out when I'm trying to jump into the series. I did activate everything else, so I think we're pretty much set to get into the game once we have the players ready. So probably while we're waiting for them, we are going to take a look at their recent tournament performances. So, in terms of recent tournament performance, and in this tournament, Dogao won 3-1 against Bhakti in the group stage, but in the first round of the group stage, Dogao lost 3-0 to Max. In the decider of the group stage, he defeated Max 3-1. So he played twice against Max. The overall score is 4-3 for Max, but Dogao's timing for winning 3 games was better. So Dogao is the second player from that group. Viper and Bhakti for the other players from that group over there. Dogao did not play Viper, by the way, so far. So he only played Bhakti and Max from that group. He avoided Viper in here. MbL, on the other hand, had a very strong performance. He 3-0'd Stray Dog, that's one thing, but I think the 3-2 against Mr. Yo is what really convinces me, and a lot of people would have said that Group D, which had Mr. Yo, MbL, Chart, and Stray Dog, probably goes down between MbL and Mr. Yo, because the other two players aren't really going to be a huge factor over there. But a lot of people probably would have said that MbL is gonna get defeated by Yo, and Yo is gonna take the group. Didn't appear that way. It was a close series. MbL edges that one out. At the end of the day, MbL is the one at the bottom part of the bracket. That is one of the reasons why Viper, Yo, Hera, and Leary are all at the top of the bracket and facing off against each other instead of one of them going down to the bottom part of the bracket. So, MbL, he's got his chance to get into the finals here. I think he needs that because MbL's recent tournament performances were somewhat disappointing. So, Hidden Cup 3, 5th to 8th. The last time he was having a good time in a 1v1 tournament was basically Hidden Cup 2 that was big. He was semi-finalist there but lost 3-1 to Viper. KOTD 2, let me scroll back to that. KOTD 2 he was quarterfinalist, and NAC 3, where is that? Where is NAC 3? Didn't MbL play in NAC 3? Oh yeah, he couldn't participate. That's right. MbL didn't participate in NAC 3 because I think he had school or something like that starting. He was semi-finalist in NAC 2, but the last time he was a finalist in a tournament, in a 1v1, was a long time ago. So, like, I'm going to quickly get through that. Battle of Africa 2, of course, is their one of their biggest performances, but that's a team event. Escape Champions LAN League Finals, he was second place with the team, of course. And yeah, basically, his best individual, like 1v1 performance is Mono Civ Cup, losing 3-0 to Viper in the finals. Clash of the Hippo 5, that's a team event as well, so I'm dumb. Then, yeah, basically that. He'd never really won a tournament in 1v1 as I see it. He was consistently in the semifinals, almost always getting into the quarterfinals, so he's a very consistent top 8 player, but it remains to be seen if he's jumping into the top 4 here. He's got all the chance he needs as the game number 1 is underway. We are gonna get in there, and let's take a look if MbL is going to secure a spot for himself in the semifinals once again. He has done that many times, but in this case, if he gets to the semifinals, he's gonna have a real shot at getting into the finals because he's not going to match up against one of the top 4 players in the bottom part of the bracket. We are going to have MbL starting off with a Vikings play here in yellow, and on the left, or more like northeastern part of the map, is going to be Dogao playing as Chinese. Let's take a look at the maps of the players real quick. So, Dogao's Bear is on the front, not so nice. You got the Goldmine on the front, again, not so nice. He's got the Huntables at the back, which is pretty cool. He's got a Stone at the back as well. So this is the type of map that is not ideal, but kind of the acceptable quality for Dogao. One thing that is helping him quite a bit is that his elephants are rather safe. And I think when you're playing against MbL, you almost need to be sure that you bring your elephants in very fast. So potentially after 6 Villagers, bring in the elephant as fast as possible. And because of this, I don't really like that Dogao is pushing in here. I think for Dogao, against the player that likes laming this much, you probably want to prioritize finding your sheep and finding your elephants fast and bringing them in as soon as possible, instead of pushing deer. You can still push in deer later on, and what is Dogao doing? I'm not 100% sure on this, but this might be a super fast drush. Look at this. He's not making a lumber camp. Okay, now he does. This was weird. I'm not sure why Dogao did this. He went with 3 villagers out. Maybe he didn't see a good wood line and he just waited until he finds a good wood line for himself. That could be the reason why he was using villagers on stragglers. But it is still interesting to see that Dogao actually sent those villagers out quite late to the wood line. So, on the other hand, we are going to have MbL's base looking pretty nice as well. He's got the gold mine safe, the berries are acceptable, stones are kind of awkward and kind of bad, I would say. We are gonna have the wall off here probably for MbL, which is pretty nice. And on the other hand, at the end of the day, I think MbL has a better base. Look at this. This is a super easy wall off. Although for MbL, everything is an easy wall off. MbL likes to play with long walls, and he knows about this one. One thing that's going to be super funny, he doesn't know that there is a hole here, and he doesn't know there is a hole here. So if he just walls like this, he is eventually going to leave a lot of holes in his wall. MbL is looking for his opponent, but he's not going to find him. A relic is a clue that Dogao is not close by. That's why MbL is turning north. Like, Dogao could be here, but that's a smaller chance than being over here. So, looking at MbL scouting, he's like, okay, Dogao is not here. So, he could be here, but that's very unlikely because that would be very, very close to my base. So, it's more likely he's around here. And he sees the 4 tiles of gold now, which is a clear indicator that Dogao's base is nearby. Anyways, there's absolutely no laming coming up, and one of the things that Dogao does quite frequently is this mill placement. A lot of the experts just place the mill right by the berries, with no gap in between. Dogao likes to play it this way, because then there is less villager bumping, and I actually like this quite a bit from Dogao. I'm not sure if it's more efficient or less efficient than the other play, as it appears Dogao is trying to snipe a villager here. Damage is 1, but unable to get that killed. Interesting that MbL is gonna go for the fast barracks with the Drush. I think that Dogao might have seen the barracks. Indeed, he sees the foundation, sees there is no berries just yet. So he will be prepared to take this fight. Most likely, he already starts walling in his villagers. And one of the reasons why this mill placement is better in that aspect is because it's much easier to wall your villagers in. If you place the mill right by the berries, it's very hard to wall your villagers around, whereas in this case, this is a much easier wall off. So I really like this mill placement for Dogao, even if it's a slightly more inefficient than that of other players' mill placements. It is still going to be a little bit more efficient for walling off. So, let's see, militias are out for MbL, but Dogao is on the way to Feudal Age already with what is 23 pop already. This is a very, very fast scouts play from Dogao. He's probably going to drop the barracks over here or over here, and then scouts most likely is the scenario in this one. By the way, I'm quite a bit behind for whatever reason. So let's speed things up a tiny bit over here. I thought that I jumped in right after they started, but apparently I wasn't. So, well, here we go. Dogao so far doing a decent job defending. MbL is going to be fully walled. I don't know what to think about this gate here, but technically his base is super, super safe right now. Dogao, nice. Quick walls with the exception of the final tile. A house here could have been a little bit better, and now Dogao is in trouble. MbL picks off one villager, and Dogao has to evacuate one of his wood lines. That rush already had its effect, and looking at MbL, he's gonna go straight rush FC, something that was so common in the standard Arabia back in the days. Now it's not so common in KOTD Arabia, and now Dogao is gonna bring in the scouts to take this fight, even pose a few villagers so he can help out the scouts, but this is not looking great for Dogao. He also missed out on 2 of those sheep. It's a very, very unfortunate sheep spawn for Dogao. He's missing out on those by a tile. So that's very unlucky for Dogao there. So right now, this is looking perfect for MbL. By the time Dogao can do anything with his scouts here, MbL will pretty much be clicking up into Castle Age, and he's gonna go for stable. I like this. This is basically a Hoang rush with a Vikings eco. That's basically what's gonna happen, and MbL plays a lot of games against Hoang. He knows exactly that his strategy here can be extremely devastating. So, for that purpose only, I really like MbL's execution here. He isn't doing anything fancy, he's just playing smart, and he's using a rather strong strategy over here. Even if his Drush doesn't even kill a single villager, this would have been great. On the other hand, look at Dogao. He's got the Chinese eco at his disposal, and he will eventually click up to Castle Age quite fast. And MbL just getting double bit axe for himself. Dogao already has that. I don't think that that Castle Age difference is going to be that big. And the thing is that Dogao does not see the stable. but he also doesn't see the archer range, and that matters. I'm not sure if Dogao saw the number of villagers on Goldmine. That could be indicating that there is knights coming his way. But forward siege workshop, this is something that Dogao is going to see. Dogao sees the extra armor on that scout, so he should know that MbL is gonna go for knights. He now sees the knights as well himself. Now, the good news here for Dogao is that he can actually go for camels. He's already getting bloodlines and the battering ram from MbL, interestingly, to batter down the walls. Dogao can make 1 or 2 spearmen to deal with the initial knights, but MbL is going to need monks here, because otherwise the camels will just eat up the knights. MbL is adding some spears as well into the party, but that's not a huge amount of spears. And, well, he does have the wheelbarrow and handcart advantage in terms of economy. That's why this push can be so strong. It's one thing that you do at Rush FC. The other thing here is that you are going to have a super efficient economy as well. Dogao is just about to get the camels in though, and camels could be super efficient at just dealing with that mangonel. It appears that the mango could go down. Villager is trapped inside, not looking great for Dogao, and his gold mine is dangerously exposed. His map is definitely not as good as MbL's is, so MbL clearly has a map advantage in this game. But regardless of that, I really like MbL's strategy and idea here, as the camels need to kill here. The 2 spearmen are really being annoying here, so I am somewhat surprised that Dogao is not adding a single spearman. And how he's counterattacking? He's counterattacking with the camels. Maybe he's just trying to out-micro... Yeah, he's just trying to out-micro the spears. This actually is very good from Dogao. This is amazing from Dogao. He picks off the mangonel, could pick off the knights here, although 1 knight is inside. And the spearmen weren't really able to engage, but still, I feel like if he just had 2 more spearmen here, this would still be fine for him. Now he doesn't have the spearmen, and I think Dogao is dead. Boy, oh boy. This is how strong Rush FC is. Basically, the way this works is that if you can go for a Rush FC, you should go for a Rush FC. Because it is so strong. By the time Dogao could get anything for his scouts, MbL was in Castle Age, and that was a crystal clean execution. On the other hand though, MbL played this one perfectly, but he also had the perfect map for this. Look at this wall-off. This is everything you can ask for with a strategy like this. Compared to Dogao's map, Dogao had a front gold. If you switch the maps, MbL could have never done this. This doesn't mean that MbL played anything bad. I'm just saying that one of the reasons why this worked for MbL is because Dogao's map was rather bad for this one, but MbL takes an early advantage. Luckily for Dogao, he was behind by 1 game against Max as well, and he was able to rally himself. So that is going to be a nice source of motivation, sort of, to bring some energy from, because now he's gonna need that. As I said, I like MbL's draft a lot better than Dogao's draft. So Dogao's gonna have a hard time over here. We are done with the first game super fast. So if you went to take a break, I'm sorry, we're done with the first game. So Vikings, really nicely executed play from MbL. He had the map for it and he went for it. And everything he did was just so good. The addition of the pikemen or the spearmen alongside the knights to deal with the camels. The ram eventually turned out to be an okay one, even though I feel like mangonels at first would have been also just as good. And we have lost Chinese and Vikings, and honestly, I think this hurts Dogao more, because if you look at the stats, Vikings aren't one of the civs that have amazing win rates, and one of the reasons why is because they're slow moving in late game, but MbL used it and won. On the other hand, Dogao has Chinese, which is one of the best civs, partially because they're so mobile as well, or at least they have mobile options. So I think Dogao lost a more important civilization from his draft than MbL did. MbL still has Mayans, Franks, Aztecs available, whereas for Dogao, he lost one of his top 3 civilizations here, I believe, because Chinese and Khmer are definitely one of the top 3 civilizations that you have. So this hurts quite badly for Dogao, and now he's gonna have some trouble with his draft. Alright, I'm going to pay attention now, so we don't fall behind in the game. Let's look for the next game. And Aztecs versus Malians is the next matchup. Alright, so welcome everybody. This is going to be game number 2 in a best of 5 in between Dogao and MbL. This is MbL on the right side playing as Aztecs in yellow with a 1-game advantage in KOTD 3 quarterfinals against Dogao's Malians in blue. Malians definitely bring you the versatility that you need for Arabia, but once again MbL has a civilization that has insanely good eco. Previous game it was Vikings, and the reason why that Rush FC works so well for MbL is because he had the free handcart, which is immensely helpful. Even in such a short game, he also had the eco to supplement that very aggressive play. And honestly, Aztecs are just as good at doing a Rush FC as Vikings are, maybe even slightly better, to be honest, because their eco bonus also applies for Dark Age, and the extra gold they start with makes them able to go for a Rush FC without mining gold for the militias at the beginning. The map for MbL once again is pretty much perfect. Wall here using the stone and the edge of the map. You have a good woodland at the back, gold at the back, other woodland at the back, wall here. And this might be a long wall, but MbL doesn't really bother caring about these issues. He's just gonna wall it off if he feels like that is the place to wall it off. So, because of that, I feel like MbL is going to be fine with another Rush FC here, potentially. Dogao's map, on the other hand, is rather unfortunate once again. Not the worst map, though. I think the tricky part here for Dogao is that he's going to have to give up most of his territory on the left side and on the north, and focus on this part. If he walls it off here and here, he's going to have a lot of stone and gold at the back, just like some woodlines that are safe as well. So, even though Dogao's base is not ideal, technically this classifies as a rather decent map. The problem is that he's scouting in the wrong direction, and he didn't see a forest that would have been good enough for walling. He is going to see MbL's base, and looking at MbL, that's some ugly walls. Probably just a misclick for MbL. Yeah, indeed, he just sends the Voyager back. And was like that. I guess it could work. Not a big fan, but I mean, it's MbL. He's going to be fine. So, let's see. Dogao is at 4 on wood with Malians over here, so this is going to be a very, very heavy commitment for potentially an early barracks, because Malians' cheaper buildings allow you to play with 3 on wood for the majority of the time, but he's still playing 4 on wood. MbL, on the other hand, 4 on wood is a pretty standard Aztec play for him. And now he's not going for a super aggressive play. One thing that MbL is doing is bringing in the second boar super fast, so he knows exactly he could also get lamed here. And he's gonna bring it in even though he still is consuming the first one. And apparently he is delaying his mill in many of the cases. Now, for whatever reason, Dogao does have 1 villager advantage over here, as MbL is trying to harass a tiny bit. He could potentially pick off a villager here from Dogao, and oh boy, I might look very, very dumb after this series, because I actually went bold and predicted Dogao 3-1, but this looks very, very clean and surgical precision from MbL right now. That's 1 villager down from Dogao. Surprisingly, the 2 players still have the same villager count, but that is because MbL already went for Loom. So MbL is playing some very, very weird build orders here. It's fast, double rhinos, goes for a premium rush, but this premium rush is actually not super early, if you think about that. This is still 18 villagers already, so this is the timing of a standard rush, but without mill. Interesting ideas from MbL, very, very interesting. Maybe he wants to prioritize walling and getting the barracks up a little bit faster compared to getting the mill up. So, I don't blame MbL for it, it's just a weird way of playing. But looking at MbL, I have a feeling this is going to be a Rush FC once again, even though he's not committing a lot of villagers to walling. Dogao is gonna wall himself, but oh man, this base is something I don't really like. So, Dogao is going to be fully walled, but his gold mines are dangerously exposed, and here comes the rush. I'm not sure if Dogao scouted that, but I think he definitely had the chance to do so. And MbL is going to compensate the herdables that are running out a little bit faster because of the fact that he delayed his mill by pushing in a few deer. He's got a low HP eagle, so that's probably the best thing he can do. Dogao is going for what appears to be 21 pop archer play here. With Malians, you can squeeze that one in with one less Voyager on wood. As here comes the Drush. But MbL might be fully walled by the time Dogao arrives with the archers, to be honest. MbL is still adding more Voyagers. This is once again a Drush FC. So many times we have seen before, or heard before KOTD3 that, oh yeah, the ranked map pool Arabia is boring, it's just Drush FC Arabia. And it appears that MbL is just gonna do the exact same thing, just keep playing with Drush FC in KOTD as well. So, for now, this Drush isn't really achieving a lot, but, well, Dogao is going to add some militias. At the end, he's gonna go for men-at-arms, and he's gonna counterattack. I like this. You don't want to lose your HP against these militias that aren't really doing a lot. You wanna be moving forward with those men-at-arms, and Malian men-at-arms with their extra Pierce armor are kind of dangerous. Not a big fan of MbL's walling at the end of the day. I feel like this should have been easier wall off, and then he's secured from all directions. And honestly, the reason why I don't like MbL's walls right now is because he could definitely be towered, and if Dogao realizes MbL is going Drush FC, which is something he will because MbL is still Dark Age, Dogao could try to tower here, deny the food eco, and then potentially get an advantage over MbL here. So let's see if Dogao is pulling villagers or not. He doesn't appear so. Dogao is not the type of player that goes for very aggressive towers unless it's completely justified, and I'm somewhat surprised why he's not punishing MbL for going Drush FC, because Dogao could definitely punish MbL here with a Men-at-Arms Towers play. He's running into the TC fire though. Oh boy, he's gonna lose full HP on one of those Men-at-Arms, even loses one. That's so bad for Dogao once again. So, with that, I'm not sure where MbL's militias went. They're just probably coming back home. MbL's are gonna add one more militia and maybe just try to trade those militias off for his own safety and just to prevent Dogao from trying to go for a towers play here. But if he can pick off Dogao's scout, that would be an absolutely juicy find here for MbL. So MbL is up, but this is actually looking like a delayed Drush flush. Look at the food for MbL. This is super weird, 27 Voyagers, but this is not an FC here by any means. He just doesn't have the food for it. So I'm not sure what MbL's plan was at the end of the day. Because he's going for a ranged blacksmith, but this is very late to be a Drush flush. Now, that being said, the eco behind this one for MbL is going to be still good, even though he's not going for double bit axe. So, I think he needs to. Dogao is just going for his own double bit axe, comes in with the archers, so now he can push MbL's base here a tiny bit. Let's see what MbL is up to. MbL is making archers and skirms, getting double bit axe and fletching, so indeed he's not gonna go for castle age here, but at this point Dogao's food eco is a little bit better, even though he has seeded all those farms without horse core, so that's gonna hurt. MbL, on the other hand, remember, he's training military units faster. That applies to both the barracks and the archer range, so MbL with archers and eagles can really pack a punch here. And if you think about the fact that 27 Voyagers is basically nothing more than what you would have in an Empire War setting, in a Feudal Age start, you can compare the situation to an Empire War start here. Both players at like 30-ish Voyagers, but Aztecs have the barracks, have the archer range, and they have the Archer Skirm plus Eagle combo against Dogao. Whereas Dogao doesn't have a stable to deal with the Eagle. So just think about the way that you have thought about Aztecs in Red Bull. Because this is basically what we're seeing over here. This is exactly how a Red Bull game looked like. Probably with a little bit less walling. MbL is also keeping the militias inside the town center to heal them up. They could prove to be useful at some point in the game, even though that's still pretty unlikely, I would say. But now it's skirms and archers, and more importantly, eagles pushing MbL's adding the second range. Dogao's base isn't super safe, especially that gold mine is very bad, and MbL does not see that, so Dogao is lucky with that. But this is the time of the day where Dogao could punish, or MbL could punish Dogao for that wall. Because if Dogao was a little bit more outwards, then this would be a safe gold mine. Right now it isn't, and the only reason why MbL is not punishing it right now is because he doesn't see that, as of yet at least. But he might actually be able to find it. He's denying a lot of farming space, and speaking of food eco, Aztecs will have the better food eco with their farming and overall their eco bonus. So looking at MbL, he's just doing so much damage to Dogao over here with just 2 skirms and 2 eagles, and he's now getting close to clicking up to Castle Age. So this late Feudal Age still meant that MbL is gonna reach Feudal with a very, very strong eco to go for a rather fast Castle Age click up. MbL is using completely different build orders from Standard, and I really like this. So he seems like he is very, very well prepared for a tournament, because these are not builds I have seen at all so far. So he's playing this one crystal clean. Nice micro from Dogao, picking off Skirm and then running away without losing a unit. But Dogao is going to be behind in Castle Age time once again. Dogao does have wheelbarrow, MbL does not, so hence there is a 3 vouchers difference in between 2 players, but that is already a forward voucher from MbL. He just basically wants to use Drush FC or Drush FC-like builds to finish his opponent off fast. He doesn't want to go for a late game. He wants to finish this one off fast. Maybe he wants to go drinking in the evening, who knows. But he wants to finish this game off fast here, and with a Siege Workshop over here, this could be pretty tough for Dogao to handle. 1 minute difference in between the Castle Age times of the 2 players, as Scale Mail will be added by MbL, so there is a chance we're going to see a second Barracks. Dogao without a stable, and Dogao's gonna go for a second Barracks, means that he wants longswords. Not a horrible idea, because his longswords and crossbows should be better than MbL's eagles and crossbows, as long as both players are walled. So, especially considering that Dogao's longswords with supplies will have, I think, +2 pierce armor just from being Malians in Castle Age, and then he can go for 1 extra pierce armor, fairly cheap in Feudal Age. So this could still be fine, I think, for Dogao. He's going to be able to defend this part of his base for a brief moment, but Eagles are bashing their way in. And here they come. Dogao could try to pick that one off, and Dogao is trying to get that wall up. Not happening, and now crossbows are in for MbL, so Dogao will have to abandon parts of his base. He needs to save his army, that's for sure. He's trying to trade it off before MbL would get the crossbows, now he's running away. But this means that the defensive tower is forced on Dogao. Again, walling like this at that gold mine really hurts, and MbL, even though he sees the gold mine, he cannot punish it anymore with that tower up. So he's just gonna try and deny some farming space. Men-at-Arms are on the way for Dogao, but he's still going to need at least the +1 armor from H2 to really be efficient. He's gonna go for crossbow botkin first, naturally. And where did his archers go? I have no idea. Where's Dogao's archers at? Oh, they're inside the TC, right? Yes, they are. MbL is going to see the barracks with the flags, so I think he probably suspects that Champ Scars will eventually be a thing here for Dogao. There is Botkin as well. Looking at the miniature numbers, it's still relatively even, but MbL behind this one has a 5-6 Warriors lead. However, there is no wheelbarrow. MbL, on the other hand, does have Boso, something that Dogao does not possess. So MbL is looking pretty sharp over here, goes for defensive siege workshop, and what MbL is gonna do here is Redemption Monks, I believe. Like, if he's encountering a lot of siege defense from Dogao, he's just gonna go for Redemption Monks. Somewhat surprising that we're seeing a Scorpion to open the day with for MbL instead of Mangonels, but against the longsword, Scorpions might even be a slightly better solution. For now, Dogao is holding, but behind this one, MbL has a better eco, and MbL's push here is a little bit more convincing as well. Mangonel from Dogao. Dogao also does not have the stone to make additional TCs right now, whereas for MbL, he could add the second one if he wants to. For now, indeed, there is the second town center, and there is already a siege workshop. He is making some monks. He could pick up some relics. Like, this one is super easy to pick up, but MbL does not see that. Longswords on the way, and as the Mangonel pops out, it could land a big shot on top of the crossbows. MbL reacts instantly. So, very nice micro so far from MbL. It's a big shot from the Mangonel. Not so great for our Norwegian anymore. And even though the monks are there to heal a tiny bit, there is no redemption just yet to convert mangonels. So far Dogao's mangonel defense is looking like it's gonna work. Only 3 longswords in each of these barracks, so not a huge count. Eagle's trying to flank on the left side. Dogao will try to second layer that wall just for the sake of safety. And it's very unlucky for MbL that doesn't see this relic. He could get a little bit of an extra gold income by picking that one up. No Eagle Warrior upgrade either from MbL, so those Eagle Scouts actually die pretty easily to the crossbows. Apparently MbL just wants to push this one with crossbow Scorpion against the Champ Scars. Champ Scars pop out on the other side. Now they have a free Pierce armor. It's going to be 4 with the extra +2 armor. Actually 1 + 4, so it's going to be 5 at total. Which is pretty considerable if you think about the fact that crossbows have 7 attack. So they will somewhat struggle at killing those longswords. On the other hand, monks are actually somewhat efficient against longswords, because longswords take some time to produce. And just even losing 3 longswords out of that blob of 10 to conversions actually hurts very, very badly for Dogao. So for this reason, I think that MbL is still fine here. He's got 3 monks, that's 3 conversions on longswords. It's even easier to convert longswords than it is to convert knights. And Dogao's map control is just so limited right now. Just 1 TC play, MbL is now on 3, so MbL now has a 10 villagers lead. Still no wheelbarrow though for him. Dogao's gonna break out on the left side of his base. Feels like it's actually better for him to take this fight over here compared to this part where MbL could have this hill. And that's a nice ground tag for Dogao. MbL is one of the best mangonel micro players in the entire world, so this is going to be a tough one for Dogao. On the other hand, crossbows are melting those eagles. A little bit sloppy from Dogao to still lose a mangonel, despite the fact that the longswords and the crossbows were there. However, if you get the longswords in right now, things could turn around rather fast, because MbL doesn't really have a lot of scorpions, and for example this guy is completely isolated. Mangonel support helps against the scorpions. There is a mangonel out there, MbL fires, that's a 1-for-1 at the end of the day. Scorpions firing downhill, so Dogao will have to withdraw and wait until the second mangonel comes in here to reinforce. This is still, MbL's situation is better here, because he's got the free TCs coming up with University for Ballistics, whereas for Dogao that is still just 1 town center, goes for a market to buy 100 stone, potentially for a TC on another wood line like here. So another mangonel on the way for MbL. In the meanwhile, I think MbL should use these militias to scout the rest of the map so he can get some relics in, because that would be pretty important with Aztecs. Misses the shot with the mangonel, losing a lot of HP. Monks not dying to the first mango shot over here, and Dogao isn't able to get anything out of those mangonels right now. However, now the monks are out of monk juice, and that's a lot of crossbows to fight against. If the mangonel can finish off the scorpion, this could still be great for Dogao. He is killing a lot here. MbL's crossbows are doing a decent job just lowering the numbers of crossbows from Dogao, but those are the Champ Scars, and MbL is losing a whole lot of units over here. They are super dangerous when you have the numbers. Dogao still needs to be very aggressive here, but this is the time when you could consider potentially going Arson and just keep sending in those infantry. Dogao still has 2 barracks to play with, one of them is 69 HP, the best HP to have. And let's see if Dogao can land a shot on top of the crossbows with the mangonel. Misses the shot twice, so MbL is going to finish off that mangonel. Smart plays from Dogao, trying to finish off the siege workshop here, so MbL cannot reinforce the front line with scorpions or mangonels. There is a mangonel inside, and it should ump up over here to try and get a shot out on the longswords, but indeed, as expected, those mangonels are destined to die here. So is that monk eventually. So this siege workshop is going down, and the only thing that is in the favor of MbL right now is actually the eco. MbL is one of the players that just massively dislikes the automatic reseed button for his farms, and you can see the result right now. He's busy microing his stuff, and he has a lot of idols. And as good as his eco was behind his push, now it's actually getting pretty bad. Aztecs still have great swordsmen with supplies, but the thing is that it's pretty much just going to be an even fight until Garland Wars kicks in. MbL, of course, is a better eco behind this one, but the fact that MbL only has 17 villagers on food for what is a free TC production of villagers and what wants to be a 5 barracks play, this is not enough. The guy has 24 on food, and he's only consuming food by 2 TCs. So MbL really needs to address his food eco over here. as MbL runs up another barracks. That ends up being a 1-for-1 at the end of the day. But Dogao, with the hill advantage, he starts mangoing down that TC. I wonder if Dogao sees those barracks, and he does, so he knows exactly what's up. And he's not making any of his archers anymore. He just wants to play some Mangon and Longsword. MbL still has a greater eco. It's 30 villagers lead, but MbL had a lot more farmers idle because of this. And Dogao can also afford to just run within the range of the TC a little bit better as well. Mangonol is trying to force away the crossbows. That could be a big shot. Misses the target just a tiny bit. But MbL is losing a lot here. MbL's got +1/+1. Dogao has +1/+2. And he also has the extra pierce armor of those longswords. And he's forcing a lot of idle time on MbL, most notably on the gold miners here on the front. And look at that, just the Mangonos pushing the crossbows back. The guy is pretty much just spamming the longswords right now, knowing that he can do insane damage to MbL's eco, and that's his way back into the game. 29 idols right now for MbL. And remember that MbL had a lot of idle farms. Dogao is going to lose a Mangonol here for no gain. Maybe he can trade it off with the longswords. Now Dogao dropped quite massively in the longsword numbers, so in the end, his fight was rather inefficient here. And he's also missing Boso quite badly. So it's not great, but from what was a massive eco disadvantage for him, now he's in a position where he is actually comparable in economy to MbL. Plus, as I said, he's got the extra armor on those longswords. So, +2 versus +1 in terms of melee armor, which is super helpful for Dogao right now taking these fights. And it appears that Dogao is gonna make a switch back into stables. Scaleboarding is not a bad idea here. MbL can switch into pikemen quite fast because he's got a lot of barracks and he's going for infantry upgrades. But right now MbL doesn't have that, and just 10 knights here could give so much advantage for Dogao and a chance to potentially raid MbL's eco to death. More important to point out, MbL doesn't really have a great wood line. This is basically the only reasonable wood line MbL remains with, so MbL will struggle for wood control. As Dogao is going to make the tech switch. MbL now is 37 on food though, so Imperial could be on the horizon for him. And he still has a decent amount of crossbows to fight against the initial knights. Here come the scorpions though. So Dogao is going to go like mass scorpion and then knights. He still has a decent amount of longswords to tank the arrow fire as well. And for now, this is looking like a pretty decent game for Dogao. As I said, Dogao, I think the fact that Dogao could beat Max is a strong indicator that Dogao does have a shot today, but from the first game, it seemed like MbL was in a better position. This one is a little bit debatable because MbL is leading right now. Dogao lost the Scorpion here, loses another one that's very, very sloppy. But on the other hand, that is again villagers that could be killed, and MbL has to idle his villagers for so long. And look at that, MbL 25 villagers idle. Now we are talking about a better villager count for Dogao, and Dogao is getting the cavalry in, something that MbL is probably unprepared to deal with, even though he is going to see the stables now, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a pikeman addition pretty soon. He's just waiting for a little bit more knights. He probably wants to start moving in once he has like 10 knights or so. Scans in the knight to deal with the Mangonol. Indeed, MbL with an immediate pikeman addition. It's easier for MbL to make the pikeman tech switch than it is for Dogao to make the knight tech switch, because knights require completely different upgrades than infantry, and MbL already has quite a lot of infantry upgrades, longswords and pikemen. So this is still not going to be easy for Dogao to deal with, especially considering that he apparently lost all his scorpions on the left side, which hurts very, very badly, and now MbL is just flooding him with swordsmen. As I said, it's easier to make the tech switch, and S-Tech eco is still super strong. MbL had the better eco for the majority of the game. MbL now with Arson, and once the longswords are in with Arson, they can just melt the buildings. Dogao is trying to snipe the monks, but just 1 or 2 monks are just so good at converting those units. I think MbL's got this. Dogao, maybe if he continues with longswords and tries to play with scorpions, it could have been better. But now, Dogao is in huge trouble. He's got nothing to defend against that many longswords and crossbows. He can try raiding, and that's probably what he's going to attempt doing. But, I mean, MbL can clean up a few knights here and there. Whereas for Dogao, stopping this insane flood is going to be virtually impossible. What Dogao would need for this is like large amount of crossbows. And longswords with Arson are just gonna melt these buildings. I think that if Dogao loses this game, this might be a 3-0 though. Because he's got his shot in this game, but couldn't really get there, so there's a chance we're going to see a 3-0 here. MbL with a forward castle. MbL barely makes major mistakes in this series so far. In fact, he's playing super clean. He's gonna clean up those knights, and this might be Dogao's journey's end here in this tournament, because this isn't looking like a 5-game series right now. Although technically MbL could still fall apart in game number 3 and 4, but so far MbL's execution is surgical, absolutely massacring his opponent. And honestly, even if this wasn't Dogao, even if this was, let's say, Hera, Viper, Yo, or Leary, this would be a very, very hard MbL to fight against. So even though MbL is technically on the weaker side of the bracket, you cannot say that him reaching the semifinals or maybe even the finals with such a performance would be absolutely unjustified. Because what he is doing in this one is super clean. He saw the stables, immediate pikeman addition, his tech switches are clean, his draft is very good, and something that AM players kind of struggled with in recent times is having kind of bad drafts. Now this is there for MbL. He's having a very good draft here. In fact, I think that he outdrafted Dogao, something that should have not happened, because Dogao is apparently the weaker player in the series, and Dogao should have had the better draft. But yeah, way better eco for Aztecs, and MbL is just picking civs that have great ecos and just using pretty much the numbers and eco advantage that he is possessing. Now Aztecs is gone as well, and what's really scary here is that if you look at Dogao's civs, Khmer are nice, but after that Indians, Incas, and Slavs, nice but not amazing. For the results of the previous series, you can check the brackets. There's exclamation mark brackets command, I think. So we don't spoiler anything on the chat. That's better for everybody. So MbL still has Franks, Mayans, and Goths available. Probably, like, Franks is a reasonable civilization here, but honestly, I don't think that MbL needs to really worry about the Civ so far. Like, basically with whatever Civ he played with, he did fine. I think Franks could be reasonable. Franks have the nice farming bonus, which can be super helpful. Help you get a reasonable castle each time with a good eco behind that one. And once again, you can go for like a knight and pike play. And go for a push in early to mid the castle age. For Dogao, it depends. He could just say, okay, let's YOLO this one and go Incas. He could try Khmer, but I'm not sure if Khmer is really going to give him enough advantage in this. Like, legit. So far, it wasn't really about the Civ matchup. It wasn't. It was basically about how clean MbL was playing. And I think that's what matters right now. Indian could be good versus Franks. It is not. Indians don't really have their response to the early pikeman switch of Franks. And if we are talking about pikemen mixed in, if Indians mix in their own pikemen to either battle the knights or just try to trade against the pikemen, Franks will have throwing X-Men. The problem is that Indians are just gonna struggle against the pikemen so badly. And also, they don't really have a great eco bonus at the beginning of the game. It's just a little bit cheaper villagers, which is nice, but not really game changer, kind of. So, because of this, I believe that Indians here aren't really going to help you. In fact, as I said, I'm somewhat surprised that Indians are even in the draft here. Alright, so we're gonna get into the next game in a brief moment. I actually preemptively restarted my game, so we don't crash to death. And indeed, we have a game, so we are going to be rolling with this one. in a brief moment. MbL versus Dogao. Indeed, game number 3 is up. And here we go. So we have a Mayans versus Indians play over here. Interesting, but bad for Dogao, I believe. The thing is that one of the biggest weaknesses of Indians in this matchup, or in any matchup, is that they don't have knights. I'm gonna fast forward to, like, I think game live is at 2 minutes, but it's just scouting at the beginning. It's because I had to restart my game, that's why we're a little bit behind. So, let's see. Oh, there is a big dance over here. Hello! So, MbL apparently is trying to lame, I think, what could be one of Dogao's villagers, or maybe he's just trying to deny the deer push. Yeah, he's probably just pushing away the deer and trying to lame a villager from Dogao. He wants to finish off Dogao here with a 3-0 without really showing his hand. A Dark Age Ego beats a Dark Age Scout. So this means that the fight here is something that Dogao cannot really take. He will need a villager with loom or something to do this. In fact, Dogao should go for early loom here and try to bring his elephant in here this way. So the problem is that knights aren't there for Indians, which pretty much means that they will somewhat struggle against the archers of Mayans, and they will massively struggle against the eagles. Like, basically, Indians can do long swords against eagles. That's the best thing they can go for. Dogao, this is a little bit too ambitious over here. I think he thought MbL is gone, but MbL is not gone. This was way too ambitious from Dogao there. I think he just thought that MbL is gone. This is the only reasonable explanation on why he did that. He sent out a villager without loom to lure that one in, and he sent his scout forward. Now, he's going to be delayed with his second boar, and look at MbL. He is just sitting back, chilling, and once again, he's gonna do the exact same build that he did before. Just gonna go for the fast elephants, and then barracks probably for what could be a Drush FC, or what could be the same play that he did before. Like the exact same play. Okay, now we're live, and you can see that right now Dogao is just dragging away MbL's scout. So Dogao brings in the other boar, but I think the start is still better for MbL. Let's take a look at the bases real quick over here. So MbL's base is super nice, gets the militias in, he's got gold at the back, stone at the back. Gotta say that MbL is very lucky with these maps. He's got near perfect maps. Look at this. Wood lines at the back, or more or less at the back. You got gold here, stone here. So, super defendable map for MbL. Dogao's base is actually awful. This gold mine is bad, this stone mine is bad. And the wood line is okay, I guess. But, yeah, this is not great for Dogao at all. And as much as MbL really outplayed Dogao here, this is not just from the map advantage of MbL. MbL is very lucky with the maps. So, you really gotta just give a credit to the luck that MbL is having with the maps here. Of course, luck alone doesn't win you any games, so I'm still saying that MbL is... Oh, look at that, he's blocking. Look at that, MbL. He's even going to, like, basically remove all damage that Lion could cause on his militias. So, 3 militias are out here for Dogao as well, making a 4th one here to play around with. So he wants to go for what is a Drush. I think this wanted to be a Man-at-Arms play, because this is 21 villagers up only, and he already has 2 villagers on gold. So I think this wanted to be a Man-at-Arms Archer's play, and this is why he's holding back his militias right now, getting a 4th one in. Interesting idea, but once again, what are you going to do with Man-at-Arms when MbL is already going to be on the way to Castle Age? Look at that, 26 villagers already for MbL. He's about to click up to Feudal Age himself, Dogao, with Man-at-Arms upgrade, or at least he wants to go for Man-at-Arms, but that is not going to happen, because by the time he gets the gold for Man-at-Arms, he's going to take this engagement, waited for Feudal so he can get his buff on the scout, and MbL is going to lose the Drush here, but on the other hand, I think he is just a happy man here, sitting back and chilling. I think he might have enough for Drush FC. It's a little bit tight, because he still needs a lot of food to do that, but he already could have 2 more villagers queued up. So yeah, it's a little bit tight here. But on the other hand, even if it's not a Drush FC, we could see something similar to what we have seen in the previous game, which is basically like a Drush into a very, very late Fuel Age, but then basically almost straight up going into Castle Age with just some small military being added here. I wonder if he's gonna go like Drush FC Eagles. That could be something to think about. Because what can Indians do against the Eagles? They have camels, which are kind of potato. Monks aren't working against the Eagles. And archers aren't really gonna work against Castle Age Eagles either. So there could be a strong reasoning for MbL to go for like a Drush FC Eagle play here that the Mayans could struggle against. Any other civ would make knights, but guess what? Indians do not have their own knights, so that's not really going to be a thing. Cav archers right now are very bad. It's not a horrible idea, and on Woobly I would also agree with you. The thing is that Dogao's Castle Age time is going to be worse. So by the time he gets to Castle Age, MbL is already going to be up to Castle himself. Goes for double range, so this is going to be crossbow play here. He's going to be able to even squeeze in a blacksmith somewhere. But the idea here is that Cav archers need a lot of upgrades to be efficient. And without the upgrades in Castle Age, they are super bad. And you also will have a slower Castle Age time than your opponent. So if your opponent is going for a Drush FC Eagles against Indians, the Indian player cannot go for like what is right now an archer into Cav archer play, because the Indian player will be slower to Castle Age. Or will he? MbL, this is surprising. He had 500 food in the bank, so he could have considered FCing this one, but this turns into a late Drush flush play apparently. So double range archers, and he's going to delay his Castle Age time a tiny bit. Now, Dogao might not delay his own Castle Age time by much, to be honest. So if you look at Dogao's food count, this might actually be better for Dogao in terms of Castle Age timing. So MbL even stonewalling the right side, making the blacksmith right now. And he's going to counterattack. I like this. Dogao doesn't have a lot back at home and he just has one range. He's making skirms though, so I don't think MbL can do a lot of damage. But MbL really wants to do Fuel Age damage because he's getting fletching before they even thinking about clicking up to Castle Age. With this much food count, it's understandable, but he had 500 food at some point in the game before he started getting upgrades in, so it could have been a fast castle for MbL if he wanted to. Anyways, the Eagle here is going to be immensely helpful, and that's why the Meso civs are so strong. The fact that the barracks helps you make a unit that deals with skirmishers is great. Any other like European or Asian civ requires a stable to deal with skirmishers. Here, you just need eagles, so you don't need a stable, you already have the building that produces the units that deal with the skirmishers. So this is why this is so good for MbL. Dogao is gonna get his own fletching. His resources are looking a lot better, but he is without horse color, seeding a lot of farms, which is going to have its long-term impact on his economy. He's not gonna get baited into the TC fire of Dogao right now, and now MbL is coming in here. A lot of those skirms are low HP. Let's see the dance. Dogao still has 2 militias to soak up some arrow fire, but it's not really going to matter, and look at that. He's separating Dogao's army perfectly here, as Dogao will be forced to evacuate his wood line. We will have padded archer armor coming in here as well for MbL, and now Dogao is running for his life once again. He is potentially going to have a better Castle Age time, especially if he had a market to balance out his eco with, but does it matter when once again your eco is going to suffer from a that big deficit? At this point for MbL, it's perfectly fine to lose this army and trade it off to what is going to be 4 villagers. Maybe he can look for a weak villager around the town center and try to pick it off. But yeah, Dogao is going to buy himself up to Castle Age over here with a market. But he is behind by 4 villagers right now with no wheelbarrow on either side. And that is going to have its long-term effect. So 4 villagers lead here is huge. Also, MbL's army is a lot cheaper, so making these archers is a little bit easier here for our Norwegian player. And this could be a free 0 for MbL here because he is just not stepping down from the battle. He is just pushing and pushing, and now Dogao is gonna go for Castle Age, and Castle Age into what? Like, crossbows aren't bad, but Mayans are still going to have their own answer against crossbows. I'm somewhat surprised MbL has a slightly inefficient eco compared to Dogao, although if you compare the upgrades, MbL went for extra armor, Dogao did not go for that. Dogao did not go for Horse Color either. So MbL has a lot of upgrades here. So he is going to have a delayed castlage time, but that comes with a slightly more long-term efficiency for your economy. So, and MbL also has 5 villagers queued up. He could just cancel 5 vills here, and he could have the resource to click up very soon. MbL, hello? Scaleboarding on the way for Dogao, so he is tempted to switch into camels, and one thing that makes camels very good is that they can snowball very fast for Indians because they have a pretty decent pierce armor, and they are having a very good anti-building attack, so they can just start knocking down buildings very fast here. MbL with a 1.5 minutes deficit going into castlage, but Dogao's army, on the other hand, is definitely outmatched in terms of upgrades. Eagles are also in here to support. So Dogao's faster castlage time might actually backfire over here because he doesn't have the upgrades. And so far, he's doing a beautiful job focusing down the archers. But now, MbL can once again pressure the gold miners. Dogao is running out of military over here. It's 6 military against 18. And MbL will soon have a bunch of archers on the gold mine. That is the end of Dogao. And I probably look pretty dumb over here right now, saying that I actually expected Dogao to win 3-1 against MbL. This MbL is extremely sharp, and this MbL will be a challenge for the top 4 players if he gets into the finals. Because right now, this MbL is probably one of the best MbLs I've ever seen. So he's playing super clean, really, just very few mistakes. So Dogao is dead here. There is no chance for him. He's got 3 skirmishers against what is, look at this, 10 military over here sitting on your gold mine. So yep, once again, this is going to be a semi-finals performance for MbL. MbL has been consistently in the semi-finals of tournaments in recent memory. Kind of lacking finals performances, but this MbL with these settings, I think he can actually be a strong contestant to maybe even win the finals. I think it depends on who he gets from the top bracket. MbL is a little bit lucky that Viper, Yo, Hera, and Leary, out of those 4, only 2 will get into the semifinals on the other side, so they pretty much deal with each other on the other end of the bracket. But MbL with a crystal clean play, and with that, he is going to be the second semi-finalist on the lower part of the bracket. Absolutely outstanding place for MbL. Super clean, very surgical precision. And that is the end of the story here for Dogao. Dogao should still be proud of himself. He defeated Max. He got into the quarterfinals. It's a good performance from him. This day is probably a little bit disappointing for him, though, at the end.